Part 1. Present day, Day 1. David, an incredibly handsome middle-aged man, wakes up in his bed. Hello? 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 No answer. He knew it was unlikely there would be after the first, but habit forces him to repeat just in case the connection is poor. I'm on Earth, he thinks. Fuck, I'm not ready, I want to go back. You can't, David. He hears the voice in his head. He remembers, it's Grace, his handler, so definitely he's not in his real bed.
He's asleep?
Yes.
Are you?
No.
How much longer, Grace? I don't have more than a few days left in me here, unless you want to drop by.
David. Please don't.
I have no choice, you hold all the cards.
I hold none, but I understand your position, your feelings, your hatred towards me.
Frustration isn't hate. We don't know hate. He doesn't know hate, go wake him.
You know I can't.
But you could.
I could, but that's not going to help. What's the point? When he's done, he'll revert to himself, he'll no longer be you.
An old me?
Correct, but why confuse him, why confuse me? You both look alike now, yes?
Probably.
How old do you feel, David? 25, 30?
I don't know, Grace, I have nothing to judge it on. I don't look in the mirror, I feel no pain, I'm tired but I know why, so I guess if you were here instead of there I'd probably feel 20 alive.
Sorry.
It's okay, what can we do? We signed up for this, correct?
Correct, David.
Stop calling me David.
Do you prefer, sir?
No, you know I don't like that on the ship, it's worse down here, anyone with a title is nearly granted immunity because of it.
Can I call you Dad?
We have no children, we are not married, we know each other, but I'm definitely not your dad or daddy.
But when we get married and have children, do you want Dad or Father?
Well, you know it can't be father, sounds like priest.
Exactly, I know you so well I can read your mind.
It's a bit obvious and we both know you can't read my mind. Yes, you can communicate with me telepathically, but only because we possess the technology.
You're rhyming a lot, Captain.
No, not Captain, or boss man, or anything with authority, go back to David, or maybe Dave would be more calming.
Dave? Okay, when was the last time you went by that?
When I was a child and liked to wear a Kawasaki hat.
Is this what the evening will be like, Dave?
Maybe, or maybe I'll go shave.
Please stop.
When was the last time you shaved, Grace?
David, sir.
You are required to answer as per agreement.
Fuck the agreement.
Answer.
Same as you, David. Are you happy? I'm hairy like you.
Onion and garlic?
Absolutely.
Braided?
What about yours?
I shaved mine a while ago.
When?
I don't know.
Fine, I'll shave mine tomorrow, finally.
Pretty stinky?
No. No onion smell, no garlic smell. I'm like you, David, I don't smell.
Your shit don't stink.
Does yours?
It did today, thanks for asking.
You know I can get it from the transcript?
I know.
Are you okay?
Not yet.
What can I do?
Keep talking, find something funny in this whole fucking situation.
We are past funny, David, now we do the work, no matter how much it hurts.
Are you rhyming now?
Who knows, maybe, baby.
You know we can't use that term, Grace, this is hard enough.
Sorry, David, I'm in our world, not theirs, it's hard to forget.
It's fine, soon we'll be able to share our story, until then I wish the fuck I could get back to sleep in this world, it's so fucking noisy, Grace.
I know, your earplugs are on your desk, want me to retrieve?
No, I need to get used to this body again, well the environment it's in. Sorry.
Maybe it's a bug?
We're human, Grace, we don't have bugs.
We speak with alien technology, David, the bug would be in their software, not us.
Sorry, yes. I should know this.
Remember, Dave, human body equals human knowledge.
I forgot.
What else have you forgot?
Almost everything, we are on a kind of weird 51st dates.
In a sense, But once you remember, it all comes back in a flood, or once you hate me and realize who you were once was.
I fall in love with you every day, Grace. Any hate is temporary and you know it.
Sure. For me, you need me, but the rest of your family, your friends, the entire planet.
I'm not required to love anyone but you. Was that not part of the agreement? As per agreement? APA. Did you forget?
No. I love you, David.
I love you too, Grace. What the fuck can I do today if I can't get back to sleep?
We are skipping over the rest of the conversation?
Yes.
Alright. Go ahead.
Ahead.
Ask.
Oh, will you be at the park today, Grace?
I can't say.
I hate you.
I hate you too.
What is wrong with us?
Nothing, David. We're living two lives, two sets of emotions, two existences.
Two bodies.
Yes, two bodies too, but David, sorry, it's only me and you.
I know, we're the test subjects, the idiots.
We did what we needed to do.
Now clichés instead of rhymes.
David.
Grace. Sorry.
I love you, David.
No.
It's not optional.
Prove it.
APA.
Where is my copy of this agreement?
It's in your fucking head.
Whoa, language, Grace.
Fuck you, David. An hour ago the transcript was nothing but a stream of every swear word you could think of or make up.
I was still waking up.
Try a cigarette.
I wish. I keep missing the guy selling the cheap smokes.
I know. Try 7 p.m. tomorrow or Friday.
Set an alarm.
David.
Yes.
I miss you, David.
I miss you, Grace, but I can't take this. I need face-to-face. Sorry about sounding like Dr. Seuss, but it's all coming out, like shit from a goose.
Oh, you're so funny, not just punny. I wish you were here. I wish you were near. You know I can't call you honey.
Really, G? Maybe I should call you by letter instead of name. How do we address each other on the ship, or I guess the game?
It's not a game, and neither of us are on the ship. We exist as humans, David, and on this planet, we ain't shit.
So we can die?
In a sense, if you care. Does it really matter?
No, I just can't remember.
I know. Sorry.
Stop saying that.
We're Canadian, David. It's our thing.
I'm not anything.
Relax, David.
I'm pissed, Grace.
I know.
You should leave.
Too late.
Why? You pregnant?
No. Infatuated.
Find a hobby.
Keep going. You understand where I'm at and where you're at.
You don't have emotion, I do.
You have our emotions, David, not yours.
Stop yelling.
Just ensuring you heard without thirds.
3, not thirds.
Whatever, David. Do you love me?
Can you tell me why?
Not yet.
I feel strong emotions towards your Grace, but I also feel like two people, one with and one without emotions/feelings.
It's the same thing.
Whatever.
David.
Grace. Is this it? Is this our life now?
No. You know it isn't. Patience.
I have none left. I'll kill the next person who fucks with me.
You won't. You can't.
You're that into me.
Unfortunately.
Jesus, the rhymes.
Jesus indeed.
Fuck off, Grace.
No. Get on your knees.
I bow to no one, Grace, not even you, not even when we lived in a shoe.
Your past memories are blocked, David, so yes, maybe we lived in a shoe as rodents or something, maybe bugs, maybe poo.
Please stop it.
No. It's fun and keeping you entertained slightly until I can figure out what to do.
Really?
Why not?
You know who we are?
I do. We come from afar.
Okay, Grace, I'll play this game. How far away before we decided to play?
It no longer matters. We were the last of our kind, on a planet that was doomed to be left behind. Many of us left in every direction, hoping another planet would find us, detect our intention.
And Earth did?
No. Earth did not find us. We found it, while at the head of our little ship.
I suspect our vessels is not small.
No, David, it is not at all. Imagine a city, or two, floating around the atmosphere invisible to you.
This is fun, speaking like this, but why can't we speak normally, like when we are in bliss?
Bliss is a state that takes us away, David, from our responsibilities, our place, our mandate.
Mandate?
We have a plan, David, general indeed, but a plan where, David, we intend to succeed.
We only write in rhyme when we need to be anonymous, Grace, so why are you keeping this pace? I don't need anonymity anymore. I need to get out of this fucking room, this fucking house, this fucking life, past the door.
Not yet.
And if I decide otherwise?
Go ahead.
You sound tough tonight, did you get some sleep?
You want a fight?
I do.
Go online. Get back to me when you are done.
Fine.
Fine.
I can't take this.
I understand. What should we do?
Can we go back and live in the shoe?
Yes and no. Are you willing to leave Earth to relive life as a mouse? With a shoe as a house?
Why not? What do I have here now and about?
It's hard to stop the rhyming once it starts.
No worse than one of your farts.
David, you know it's not true. We may be linked, me and you, but our farts are not together, not now, not forever.
That's the best you got.
For now.
Fine. I'm going to eat and go back to sleep, then I'll continue to write continuously. I might turn on the screen capture so you can watch me write, or maybe I won't, I'll decide tonight. I enjoyed rhyming with you today, Grace, but one day I wish to wake up, nearer your face.
David consumes 2 kilograms of chicken wings and collapses asleep in his bed. 3 hours later. David in his head, Grace? Grace? Grace?
Yes, David, I'm here.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry.
For
sleeping.
Were you tired?
Yes.
Why are you apologizing to me? To be nice?
Can we write, with the rhyme or the sarcasm?
Of course, David. Where should we start?
The beginning doesn't work, which mean chronological will not work, correct?
Correct.
Does it matter?
I don't think it does, do you?
Not really, just get it started, Grace, set the pace.
You already did. Where are we talking, me and you?
We are both on Earth, we are human but connected, through alien tech we are testing?
Tested and passed, but one small problem, can you guess?
We won't release it to others until we are together, whatever that means.
Correct.
And we don't know when that will occur?
Not exactly.
Grace.
Yes, David.
What do I need to do?
Write. Or talk.
I'm sick of both, nobody listens, nobody reads.
Did they ever?
Once, maybe.
Those that heard you, listened, David, but in a time where a message could barely transmit across a continent in 100 years. Not a place where a live video is sent in 100 milliseconds and will last 100 years on a server, somewhere.
I know.
Do you?
I'm working on it, Grace, get off my ass.
Why?
Because I don't need you.
You don't?
I don't.
Fine.
Fine.
David falls back asleep. Part 2. 2 years earlier. A chubby, moderately handsome man named Ricky Gervais wakes up alone in bed. He yawns, then farts, then looks at his cell phone, one new message, in his private account, it's probably Jane, she can wait. Ricky checks his social media, there are thousands of requests and likes for his posts, he ignores nearly all, but picks 10 at random that mention him with no likes, he gives them a like. Maybe it'll make their day, he thinks. It does, but he never knows, he doesn't follow up, it's more of a habit, the way he built his followers. After helping the needy on Twitter, Ricky checks his email, what does Jane want now? As he opens the app he sees the sender is himself. On occasion Ricky does email himself good ideas, but he doesn't remember doing that last night. How much did I drink? He tries to remember. He can't remember sending the email or getting hammered. This better be good, he thinks as he opens the email to himself. Talk to Joe. Ricky speaks out loud to himself. Okay, who is Joe, or which Joe? Joe Rogan? Why did I remind myself to call Joe? I know I have to, I've been delaying his podcast, but why would I write that to myself last night? Maybe I did get really drunk, oh well, at least I didn't buy any domains. Ricky forgets about the email and doesn't call Joe. A week later, and this time at home with Jane, Ricky receives the same email, sent overnight, by him. Talk to Joe. Jane, Ricky yells at the top of his lungs, thinking she's in the kitchen. What? Jane responds as she sticks her head out of their bathroom. Ricky, did you access my email account? Jane, no, why would I? Ricky, to fuck with me. Jane, yes, I have nothing better to do with my time than fuck with you, anything else, or can I get back to what I was doing? Ricky, what were you doing? Jane, you know you don't care. Ricky, fine, but you are positive you didn't access my email? Jane, I'm positive, you probably did it yourself in the middle of the night. Ricky, I don't remember getting up, do you remember me out of bed? Jane, I wish, but no, you were snoring beside me all night long, as far as I can remember, but who knows? Ricky, maybe I've been hacked. Jane, what does the email say? Ricky, talk to Joe. Jane, Joe who? Ricky, Rogan I assume. Jane, well, since you still haven't accepted his invitation to be on the podcast, maybe it's your subconscious reminding you to give him a reason. Ricky, fine, but then who sent the email? Jane, sleepwalking. Ricky, I'm calling the internet company. Jane, great, are we done now, I can get back to me? Ricky, yeah, whatever. Ricky calls his ISP and asks if there has been any suspicious activity. They say no. He asks about the email specifically, they trace it back to his own phone, whoever sent it used his phone. I've been hacked, Ricky thinks. He's not worried about anything embarrassing being released, he already posts unattractive pictures of himself in the tub. To be safe, and because money is no object to him, Ricky goes outside and destroys the phone with the only tool in his garden shed that he knows how to use, a hammer. As he deposits the fragments into the kitchen garbage bin, he yells at Jane through the house, I'm going out to get a new mobile. Jane mutters under her breath, whatever. Ricky leaves before receiving an answer from Jane. Ricky buys a new phone, new number, new private email. He asks the clerk to install a VPN and the best security apps available, regardless of the cost. He feels secure leaving the store, but realizes he does need to call Joe and explain why he's declined his previous requests. Ricky calls his agent, can you get me Rogan's number? Again, his agent replies. Yes. Just get me the number. Please. His agent reads off Joe's phone number. Thanks, even though it's your job. I love you too, Ricky. Bugger off. Ricky calls Joe, hey Joe. Joe, Ricky, my man, how are you? Ricky, I'm good, sorry for the delayed response. Joe, no problem, are you ready for the podcast? Ricky, maybe, I got an email saying call Joe, so I guess it's time. Joe, email from who? Ricky, I don't want to say. Joe, from yourself? Ricky, yes, how did you know? Joe, it happened to me too. Ricky, and Joe, and I listened to the email, followed its instructions. Ricky, what did it say? Joe, how about this, Ricky, I'd rather not discuss over the phone, but my studio is ready for you any day of the week and we can sit and talk about it. Ricky, recording or not recording? Joe, I'll explain when you get here. Ricky and Joe set the date and end the conversation. Ricky to Jane, I'm going to Austin, want to come? Jane, you're finally doing the podcast? Ricky, I'm not sure, Joe knows about the email, he got one too, or several, he didn't explain the details. Jane, if anyone knows it's probably Joe. Ricky, agreed. Ricky and Jane fly to Austin. At the JRE headquarters, Joe gives his usual tour of the facility before sitting down with Ricky in the podcast chamber. Joe, before we start, Ricky, this won't be public yet. Ricky, why? Joe, because I have 2 podcasts, one public and one private for my friends /acquaintances. Ricky, why? Joe, the email told me to. Ricky, wait, so are we rolling? Joe, yes, but we'll decide at the end of the episode if we release it to the private audience. Ricky, so absolutely not the public? Joe, not now, maybe in a few years when things settle down. Ricky, okay Joe, you have me intrigued. Joe, ready? Ricky, ready. I'm from reading, so I'm always ready. Joe, a few years ago, I received a similar email, mine said continue what you are doing the way you are doing it. Ricky, how long ago? Joe, about 5 years. Ricky, and then? Joe, and then the podcast took off, the numbers kept climbing and the Spotify deal happened. Ricky, and you give credit to the email? Joe, not at first. What did you think it was? Ricky, why not just tell me? Joe, I'm curious. Ricky, I thought I sent it to myself while asleep or drunk. Joe, I thought that too, although mine came after a mushroom trip. Ricky, but it wasn't us, was it? Joe, no. Ricky, aliens? Joe, no. I'm not sure, the only thing I know is my phones and computers are not secure, no matter what I do. Ricky, I smashed my phone. Joe, well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news maybe, but they or maybe he or maybe she can still access your phone. Ricky, fuck. Joe, don't worry about it, it's fine. Ricky, how do you know? Joe, respond to yourself. Do you still have the email? Ricky, yes. Ricky pulls out his phone and replies to the email, who the fuck are you and what the fuck are you doing? He sets the phone down and a second later it dings. Ricky reads the response out to Joe, what does it matter? Joe, does it matter? Ricky, it's in my phone, so yes, especially if it can read and or hear my conversation. Joe, it can. Ricky, it doesn't bother you? Joe, it did, and then I started getting emails, from myself, about which guests to have on and if they should be private or public. The email about you read, Ricky G, private. Joe, and that is when I first reached out to you, years ago. Ricky, you didn't say it wouldn't be published. Joe, I was asked not to, whoever wanted you here wanted you to believe this conversation would be public. Ricky, but it isn't. Joe, not yet. Ricky, have any of your private podcasts been released to the public? Joe, yes. Ricky, which ones? Joe, do you listen to the podcast? Ricky, yes, mostly the comedians, and some scientists, who are not too cunty. Joe, can you tell which ones were private first? Ricky, no. Joe, exactly. This one is a little different, we are letting the cat out of the bag if we release this without editing this first part, but, I was also asked to not edit, no matter what is said. Ricky, did you edit before? Joe, no, I had already decided editing affects the story. Part 3. Present day, day 1, continued. David's mind wakes up in bed, he can barely feel his body, but it's there, he knows he's not dreaming, he wishes. Dreams he can understand, awake is the curse.
Grace.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning, feeling better?
No.
You sound better.
Sound.
David, you know what I mean.
Grace.
Yes.
Tell me the story again. Please.
No David, time to write not listen.
I hate you, Grace.
I love you too David.
Part 4. 3 years earlier. David stares at the keys held by John, his new landlord. John is explaining something about the house but David doesn't listen, his focus is on the keys, his patience is fading. John's accent is thick, either Russian or Ukrainian, David is familiar with both, but can't place which John is. David is too tired to care. A boarder exits his room and distracts the landlord, finally. John offers David the keys, and with relief, he accepts. David enters his room, closes the door, and glances at his new home, for now or forever. Exhausted, David throws his backpack on the bed. It contains all his possessions, everything important to him after 53 years on Earth. Flopping down beside his bag, David listens to the landlord's muffled conversation projected through his door. He wants to yell leave already. But doesn't. He needs this room, this house, a new life. Eventually the voices stop. It's quiet, but not silent. Through his window David hears street traffic, and the metro passing by every few minutes, but it's faint, manageable. He places a pillow over his face and silently cries until sleep arrives. A group alien entities watch as the image cycles every few seconds between three views of a single room. East to west, west to east, and overhead. Inside the room, a man, a human named David, sleeps on a bed, alone, clothed, curled up beside a backpack. Grace wakes up in her lazyboy recliner. The one piece of furniture she shipped back to Hong Kong after her American work visa was revoked. Embarrassed, Grace returned home, and unfortunately, was financially forced to live with her mother. Grace glances at the extended sofa bed. Her mother made it up in the night in case Grace decided to use it. She rarely fully sleeps, but appreciates her mother's concern. As she showers, she shampoos her long silky black hair. Grace attempts to forget the past few years, the incident in America. Grace ties her hair up in a loose mess, enough to keep the cafe where she works happy, but she forgoes the traditional fancy buns and decorative hair clips the other employees wear. Before she leaves, she stares at her framed degrees. Her mother hung them prominently near the front door to show off to visitors. Unfortunately, it's also a regretful reminder to Grace every time she leaves for her new occupation as a barista. Arriving at the cafe, Grace notices her regular customer Kim. He comes in 2 or 3 times a week, and every time orders a large coffee, large water, and 1 serving of dumplings. Whoever is working assumes his request automatically and begins preparing it upon Kim's arrival, bypassing his need to verbally order. New employees are informed of his routine their first day. Although everyone in the cafe knows Kim, he only talks to Grace. Grace doesn't know why. Maybe he knows that she's secretly a programmer? Kim's caught her more than once looking at the code on his screen, but neither acknowledged her interest. Grace noticed everything, but pretended not to care, to not be jealous or envious. Coding was her old life, and it's easier to pretend it never happened, rather than get excited it will happen again. 9 hours later, Dave's bladder wakes him. He surveys the room again before heading to the shared bathrooms. 2 are located on his floor of the boarding house. The bathroom cleanliness is questionable, but not disgusting or unsanitary. It will have to do. He has no choice. No more hotels or Airbnbs. This is all he can afford. Before he rented, David decided he'll never live with relatives again. Grace struggles with the noise in the cafe. Someone is always dropping or banging something. She doesn't remember this in American coffee shops. She does remember being a customer and conversing with friends or dates. Maybe none of them noticed the background noise. On her phone, Grace receives an email from herself. She opens it and it's a link. Below the link it says, "We know you can protect yourself." WTF, Grace thinks, what is this? For the rest of her shift she plans on digging out an old laptop when she returns to her mom's, wipe its drive, install a new OS and access this mystery link from a triple VPN arrangement of her own invention. Part 5. Part 4 continued. Grace, impatient with the unknown message, locates her boss and quickly explains that she must leave to return home. Her Mandarin is poor, her Cantonese passable, but when panicked like she currently feels, she uncontrollably mixes both, and hopes for the best. The boss tells her, "It's okay, leave." Running out of the cafe, unsure if he understood, she wonders, "Do I care if he fires me? Maybe this is the day I never have to return." Grace notices Kim as she exits. She wants to stop and explain the email, but can't. She waves, a little too enthusiastically, and yells bye, leaving before hearing his response. David stands and reviews his room: a double bed, a nightstand, a desk with an office chair, a wardrobe, a 3-drawer dresser, a fridge, and lastly a sitting chair and ottoman. It would be better with his own washroom, he thinks, but he knows this is the best he'll get in a city full of homeless drug addicts seeking shelter. David needs groceries, but decides to wait until tomorrow. He knows the extra 100 lbs of body fat he's carrying will provide any calories he needs until then. It's not his first fast. The next morning, after another 8 hours of sleep, David still feels tired, but is ready. After a quick trip on the metro to pick up a Tim Hortons coffee and donut, he's back, laptop open, time to work. David writes. The 28th of November, 2020, Day 1. Movie idea #66. 1. God gets pissed off with everyone complaining about how hard his world is to live in and decides to go back to mortal form and live as a human to prove them wrong. 2. Normally God would just send these complainers to his friend Satan, but recently God has sent nearly everyone to his counterpart. God is lonely, he needs someone to tell him a happy story about their life. 3. God decides to pause the afterlife. Anyone who dies remains in temporary stasis. They know they are dead from earth, but are still conscious. They remember their life, but cannot feel their body. 3.1. They have two options: review their past life for eternity, or until God returns, or experience God's life on earth, through his eyes, his thoughts, his feelings, in real time. 4. God created the rules and God plays by the rules. He wipes his own memory before being reborn to a random family anywhere on the planet. He follows the rules, no different than anyone else, his universe, his rules, for all. 5. With one exception. God is playing with a stacked deck. His mind is millions of times faster than any human on their first trip into his world. It's not fair. 5.1. Feelings seem to be the biggest complaint by humans. God decides he'll tweak the universe slightly and increase his senses tenfold. By his calculations 5 would be enough, but again he'll need to silence the critics at the end of his experiment, his death. An increase in sensitivity will slow God's mind to a normal level. 5.2. And one other fail-safe. As an inventor, as the inventor of the universe, God's default creativity level, even without his past memory, is far more advanced and again would be an unfair advantage. To keep everything fair, God implements one additional new rule of the universe that only applies to him/her during his/her stay. God's new identity cannot invent or discover anything before another human on earth. He can think about it, he can actually solve the issue in his head, but he will never be allowed to be first, to take advantage of his idea. 6. Otherwise, God would probably solve gravity after his first physics class and the entire world economy would collapse when he develops a tiny electrical generator that ends the need for fossil fuels and it destroys the oil and gas industries overnight. 7. God believes, by frustrating himself with these limitations, he'll never succeed any more or less than any other human. 8. Blah, 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 God's plan works, he's God. 9. Continue later. Note, have God be a dick. David laughs to himself, the movie idea sucks, he knows it, but doesn't care, he'll take the Shrek approach, better out than in. David is finally hungry and leaves to buy some groceries. There is a microwave in the kitchen, but David's thinking he'll put one in his room eventually, not today. Grace reformats an old laptop, sets it up anonymously and taps into her neighbor's Wi-Fi before activating her super VPN. In case it fails, at least it won't be her door they kick in, hopefully. She types in the link and presses enter. Grace watches an unknown person type on a laptop, she's enthralled. She has no idea what he's typing or why, but she can't stop watching. What is this? Who sent this? What am I doing? Earlier she spent 8 hours watching this same person, man, sleep, again enthralled. Who sent this? A message flashes on the screen, Grace, are you smarter than AI? This can't be real, she thinks. Who set her up? Who is behind this? Is it Kim from the cafe or someone / something else? Am I smarter than AI? Who knows how smart AI is? Like it could read her mind. The message on the screen changes. What can you tell us about this man with only this feed? Grace yells out loud, who the fuck are you? The message changes, who are you? Why are we asking you? Grace, now convinced they can read her thoughts, slams the laptop shut and pulls out the battery. She steps onto the balcony and lights a smoke. She wishes she was in America again, where weed was legal. Not worth the sentence in Hong Kong. She knows the laptop is secure, at least it contains no personal information. She even low-level wiped the hard drive after filling it with cat videos. Even if they hacked the laptop, nothing can lead them to her. And then she remembers the camera and the mic and thinks fuck. Grace grabs a bottle of nail polish and the old laptop. She paints the camera lens and microphones over with nail polish. It might not stop all the sound, but it will stop the camera. It's good enough in her mind. Grace returns to the video with one thought in mind: what would AI do? Grace watches and begins to record the feed. 24 hours later, the only item of information she can determine is the approximate latitude of the room. Although the blinds were closed on the window, sunlight still enters, and by assuming the time zone was in North America, they narrowed the room's placement down to a few degrees, unfortunately located around the 49th parallel, which contains the majority of Canada's population, and a large populace on the USA side. The location of the room could be in either country. The furniture gives no further hints on the location. A couple of pieces look European or IKEA-like, common nearly everywhere in the industrialized world. The final clue, and the one that fascinates Grace, kept her watching the screen, is a stained glass window. Its pattern is unique and Grace believes the key to detecting where the room is located. It also projects a kaleidoscope of dancing colored lights and patterns on the walls throughout the room. The dancing, she believes, is from a tree and leaves filtering or manipulating the light. The messages from them on the video feed stop. Grace no longer feels her thoughts are monitored, but she cannot confirm. For months, nightly, after her job at the cafe, Grace reviews the footage of the empty room, watching the daily recording at 10x speed. She studies the animated patterns of light on the wall and looks for clues, anything they might find interesting. The man video continues to play as Grace falls asleep in her chair. The laptop doubles as a heating pad, sitting perfectly balanced on Grace's six-pack, the one other item she brought back from America, along with an addiction for running. Grace's mother, always curious, notices the screen while she prepares the sofa bed in the middle of the night. After determining it's not porn, she figures it must be some sort of fad the kids are doing. Watching each other do nothing seems about right, she thinks. Mrs. You doesn't understand Grace's generation, or Grace. 2 hours later, Grace wakes from a dream and gasps. She dreamt she was in the room, alone for months. Grace is scared, unsure why. It's only a dream, but to her it felt real, and it felt like prison. Grace talks out loud to herself, remembers her departure from the USA. Fuck Grace, you almost went to prison. Was it worth it? Are you happy with yourself, Kat? All you had to do was tell one white lie. One mistruth and you'd be living large in San Francisco, Grace. Instead you are living with your mother and watching an empty monitor for months. Are you proud, Grace? Pleased with your actions? Was it worth it? And what are you going to do about this man in the video, Grace? You can't watch it all day long, you have to work. Why don't you write a program to monitor the video? Start with a motion sensor, you know that code is easy. Right, Grace? Are you listening, Grace? No, don't ask them if you can write the code, just write it. You know this is why they contacted you, you know this is why they trust you. Just get off your ass and write the software, you dumb girl. Kat opens her GitHub account, selects New Project, and begins coding. Grace wonders about her regular customer Kim. He's so weird, like an alien. I wonder if aliens exist. If they do, I hope they show themselves soon. This planet needs something new to talk about in the cafe. I can only overhear the same conversations so many times without killing myself. If he is an alien, wouldn't they have something more advanced to code with than a laptop? What would an alien code? Why would an alien go to a coffee shop? Couldn't or wouldn't they just live in their ships? Wouldn't any ship from another planet be more advanced and comfortable than an old cafe in Hong Kong? Kim is cute. Can aliens have sex with humans? Why does Kim only talk to me? Am I an alien and don't know? Are we all aliens? Grace extends her laser boy to its maximum extension, places a towel under her neck, and falls asleep. 10 hours later she wakes up refreshed, alive, the first time in years. Part 6. 1 month after the Joe/Ricky podcast. Ricky buys an abandoned resort island, changes his name to Gary, and disappears from public life. Gary's new island contains an empty 1,000-room hotel. He renovates the hotel, installing a network of workstations and servers, but no connection to the internet. The entire island is 100% air-gapped. The island is independent of any government regulations. Gary can live and act as he pleases. It's his land, his business, his world. The island's weather is nearly perfect, sunny during the day, frequent overnight showers to refresh, a paradise. Gary brings hundreds of rescued dogs and cats to the island. They thrive, they have no enemies, they control the rodent population, and they bring Gary joy. Gary spends his free time teaching the cats and dogs to eat spiders, as many as they can find. Gary does not care for spiders. Gary recruits hundreds of autistic computer programmers /data specialist, all over 18, from around the world. He brings them all to the island at his expense. The programmers must agree to the following rules. 1. No AIDS, obviously. No other STDs are allowed on the island as well, including monkeypox. 2. All males must have a vasectomy, except Gary. It can be reversed at the end of their stay, if they choose. These policies allows free love on the island without material consequences. And although Elon Musk is trying to get everyone on the planet pregnant, Gary disagrees, and frankly doesn't like the idea of babies on his island, Gary's island. 3. Finally, no data read/watched/heard on the island will ever be repeated off the island. Thousands of autistic programmers and computer specialists accept the terms. Gary hires nearly all. He doesn't care about their past, their education, or anything about them except that they are not currently wanted by any government for breaking the law, and the AIDS thing. The renovated hotel provides Gary's team with basic but comfortable accommodations. The amenities are plentiful and of course all free. Every person gets their own room. Married couples are offered 2 connected rooms if they please, or share one. Without labor laws, Gary sets the rules. He instructs the programmers to work as much as they please. They will be paid by the hour, they will be paid well, but no overtime. They decide how many hours a day they work, and when they work. On arrival day, after the contracts are signed, Gary gathers the programmers into the hotel's ballroom. Gary instructs his newly created team of autistics to build the following system. 1. Create an online database for anyone suffering from any mental condition, known or unknown, including addiction, to submit the history of their condition or their life, their choice. 2. Ensure the anonymity of anyone submitting their story. 3. Allow text, audio, or video submissions, but again ensure the anonymity. It must be guaranteed and provable. The system must be always anonymous, in every aspect, for every user, programmer, or administrator, for all time, guaranteed. 4. Once the security and anonymity is reached, Gary will release the site to the world and ask anyone suffering from anything to share their stories, any part of their story, as often as they please, and however they please. The programmers build an amazing system. It works, it's secure, it's perfect. The data begins to flow into the system, Gary's system, the team's system, the only system that will bring down the DSM-5. Since the island has no internet, the data is gathered on the mainland, and then moved, not copied to the island. Any data lost in transit is lost. There is no backup in transit, only on the island. Gary accepts this risk. They need tons of data, but not all the data. Anyone suffering has nothing to lose. They submit their stories by the millions. Then, the real task begins, data analysis. Gary believes stories are patterns and are predictable. He instructs the programmers to read the stories, listen to them, watch them. He suggests they look for paths in the stories, write code to find the similarities. He wants them to watch in groups, with a buddy, or alone. It's up to the programmers to decide. Any option is a viable option. Their only task now is finding the beginning, middle, and end to every story. On the island, every programmer has access to the data, there are no restrictions. And every programmer has access to the results, or code, or anything, except personal files, of another teammate. Everything is shared, but nothing can leave the island. There is no outgoing data connection to the rest of the world. The programmer's personal stories remain secure, never accessible, but when the individual leaves the island, the files are destroyed. No data, electronic or analog, will ever leave the island, only thoughts. All participants accept these conditions. There is no currency on the island, there is nothing to buy, Gary provides. With everything the programmers need being provided by the island, there is little to distract them from their jobs, except each other. Sex is rampant. Gary doesn't care what any of them do behind closed doors, their body, their choice. He only cares about the software, the code, the algorithm. Everything is proceeding without delay. The code the autistics are developing is astonishing. A few programmers give up and leave the island, but not many. Some new ones arrive. They work passionately to solve the issue, to finish the program, not for Gary, for the world. Together, the algorithm begins to form, organically, naturally. The team begins to see a solution, a possibility. It requires a few months, but over time and with Gary's nearly unlimited resources, they succeed. It's not one pattern, it's many. It's not one particular cause or solution, it's many, thousands, millions, unique to each individual. Gary knows the job isn't complete and asks the sexually exhausted autistic programmers to persevere. To build the anonymous AI, that will automatically send suggestions to anyone who submitted their story, possibly curing them of whichever DSM-5 condition they were labeled with by a doctor, their friends and or family, or themselves. The team succeeds and the AI starts interacting anonymously. It offers no guarantees, only suggestions. It works. Of course, and the world is slowly rid of all mental conditions listed in the DSM-5. A few conditions are harder to solve. The programming restarts. The sex-crazed autistic programmers fuck their way to a solution for every condition and label in the book, including any new conditions planned for the DSM-6. The entire psychology and psychiatry industry is dead, gone, into nothingness, a failed experiment. The end of the DSM-5. Gary's team bring medicine back to science, not opinions by long-dead psychiatrists and psychologists whose theories are completely irrelevant in the modern era. They save the world from a lifetime of unneeded and ineffective medicines by simply following the data, understanding the data, using the data to their advantage, to solve the issue, not label the person. Once complete, Gary sends all the autistic programmers home. The horny autistic programmers, HAPs, become famous for saving the mental health of the world. They are admired and showered with riches beyond their dreams. None of the HAPs speak of their time on the island, none. Gary changes his name back to Ricky and returns to his previous life of comedy without the world knowing it was his idea to use autistic people for the betterment of mankind. Ricky does however coin the term autistic, which of course is immediately loved by the world. Ricky goes back on tour but doubles the price of his tickets since most of his fortune was spent on the island, the experiment. The fans are not happy, but as a compromise Ricky invents a cup that holds ice, but doesn't make a tinkling noise. He gives them out free at his events, and soon the craze explodes. Ricky starts selling the cups under the name Fuck Ice Cups, instant success. Restaurants, pubs and comedy stores around the world soon adopt the trend, no tinkling. Ricky's ears are in heaven wherever he performs, or drinks, or eats in public. Ricky becomes rich again, loved again, forgiven for the ice incident, and is knighted by King Charles. Finally a glass with no ice. Part 7. Winter 1985. Rural Saskatchewan. Through his bedroom window a 15-year-old David watches his cousin Doug skating on the outdoor rink. It's Saturday, 6 a.m., David could sleep in until 6:30, his Uncle Joe allowing an extra 30 minutes of sleep on the weekends, but David's internal clock is primed for the 6 a.m. wake-up call. David writes a letter home to his mother, a tradition he started upon arrival to Saskatchewan and farm life. Dear Mother, I've lived in Saskatchewan exactly 6 months today. I think I'm finally getting used to the lifestyle, and more importantly how to handle Uncle Joe. Last week he asked me to turn my Commodore 64 off at night because it's a waste of electricity. I considered explaining, in detail, about how the lights he uses to illuminate Doug's outdoor rink consume considerably more energy than my computer, but I restrained myself. Like you told me before I left home, some arguments are not worth it. Besides, I found a workaround by installing a kill switch on the back of the computer for the lights and speaker. When I'm coding I turn the lights on and if Joe comes into my room everything looks and sounds normal. Then, when I need to compile my code or run calculations that take up most of the night, I kill the lights and let the computer run in silent mode. Uncle Joe hasn't noticed, best of both worlds in my opinion. School is fine, most of the teachers are similar to the homeland and only teach the bare minimum and are annoyed by thought-provoking questions during their lessons. The only exception is my physics and calculus teacher Black Mike. No one calls him that to his face, but everyone knows the nickname and the stories behind it. I should mention he's white, not black, but he has a large black beard and hair like Einstein, but dark and greasy. Black Mike is the largest person in the school and he uses it to his advantage every day to terrorize any student he catches running in the hall, or talking too loud, or too long at their lockers. His normal move is to grab the male students by the shirt and push them against the locker. On occasion he slides them up the locker, like the Graviton ride I told you about when we went to the Calgary Stampede. Please reread that letter if you don't remember, Mother. Anyway, Black Mike doesn't eat with the other teachers, he runs the detention room instead, a completely silent experience. On Friday I was sent to detention. The biology teacher disagreed with my alternate view of evolution, one based on physics instead of blood. She said I wasted the entire class's time. I disagreed, but nonetheless I ended up in detention, and for the first time detention was empty of other students and I was alone with Black Mike, and instead of silence we talked physics. I won't bore you with the details, but he did tell me he takes the bus to Calgary once a month to read the current journals in various sciences. He offered to bring me back some of the old issues. I think he has a secret. The rumor around school and also by Uncle Joe is that he goes to Calgary to gamble and party. But if he wanted to stop that rumor he could just tell others what he told me, no? Maybe he doesn't care? Maybe he's too smart to care? I definitely think he should be more than a teacher of physics, but he seems content. On another note, my ice hockey skills are no better, my skating still sucks, but Doug and his friends let me play goalie, which is fine, I enjoy it, although I rarely stop a puck. However, I like to believe I'm increasing their confidence by allowing the constant goals. I did help Uncle Joe modify his homemade Zamboni, garden tractor plow, some old weed sprayer heads, 3 55-gallon water drums, and a ton of welded pipe, all pulled on a homemade trailer. It broke for the umpteenth frickin' time the other day, like almost everything does on the farm. I took the opportunity to point out a change to the propane burners that would decrease the time it takes to heat the water. You know Joe, at first he said no before I could finish explaining the thermodynamics. But once I drew out the design in simple terms on a piece of paper he decided to give it a try. He even let me do the welding, which I enjoyed. Anyway, the modification worked and I think he was impressed, although how do you tell with him or any farmer? That's all I have to update you on. I'm hoping to talk to Black Mike again soon, but I'd rather not do it in detention. As usual, I'm fine, you don't need to worry about me, I'm glad you suggested I come to Canada. Love. Your son? David. David prints out the letter on his dot matrix printer and signs it. The sound normally drives the family dog Lulu crazy, but she's outside barking at Doug as he skates back and forth on the rink, allowing David to print uninterrupted. He'll give his Aunt Joan the envelope to post in town. David wonders if she ever accidentally reads the outgoing mail. Under the guise of coding alone, David remains home while the rest of the family goes into town to watch Doug play hockey. Doug is the local Gretzky, skates circles around the others, and is only stopped when body checked, the goal of every player on the opposing team. Doug's success is based on the nearly full-sized rink Uncle Joe keeps maintained for him. Doug practices whenever he wants, compared to the other players who skate only a few times a week. Once the coast is clear, David heads to the family room to watch TV, more specifically listen to it. A couple of months ago the family purchased a satellite TV dish, and since then David has been fascinated with the device. His cousin showed him how to view the scrambled pornography, but his interest was in science, not sex, and instead he found a scrambled Houston channel that interviewed NASA scientists and astronauts. The image was scrambled, but David didn't care. He only needed to hear their words, their voices, not see their faces. If no interviews of interest were playing, David would spend hours scanning the skies with the satellite, hoping to pick up an unknown channel, or better yet a signal from beyond Earth, a message sent by another planet, another sentient being, a sign. David ensures the dish is back at its original location before Uncle Joe and the family return. It's something Joe would notice in an instant and question David. David likes to ask questions, not answer them, particularly Joe's. 1 year later, David sits in the principal's office receiving a lecture about why he shouldn't quit school, especially halfway through the final year. David doesn't care. This is the final lecture in David's mind, maybe in his entire life. The principal tells David, "You'll never be anything without a high school diploma." David sits silent, not giving the authority figure a single expression of concern or emotion of any sort. He wants to tell the principal to fuck off, but he doesn't. He waits for the droning to stop, and once excused, he cleans out a hat and jacket from his locker and leaves the school forever. A week later David is on a plane heading to his new job as a grocery clerk for the Hudson's Bay Company in Inuvik, NWT. The only thought in his mind about the principal is, just watch me, motherfucker, just watch me. 3 years earlier, continued. Grace begins coding and names her software Micro-RE, My, and nicknames it May I. Grace builds an algorithm to catch the man's keystrokes. In days she can capture his every written word, but still can't see his screen. He's using multiple apps and the mouse. Grace needs to separate the raw data into actual usable data like emails, chat messages, or the full content of anything he writes. Mai does the hard work, looking at the actual data, while Grace observes and guides her AI when it makes mistakes. Grace wants a name. It's Mai's top priority, and a week later she concludes the man's name is either Dave or David or Davey. Grace continues coding, finishes the voice interface and asks Mai, "May I, what percentage of the time does David finish emails with David, compared to Dave?" Mai responds, 51% David, 49% Dave. Grace thanks Mai, but the AI is silent, no response. Grace remembers she took out the small talk portion of the AI code as it was annoying and anthropomorphizes her program. Grace believes computers are silent slaves, not sentient. David writes a short movie idea #67. All the dead psychologists and psychiatrists from the beginning of time are tasked in the afterlife with building an AI that can cure any mental illness with only YouTube, Netflix, Twitter, and Substack. They succeed, of course, and as a prize the creator of the universe reanimates every dead person ever that wants to be reanimated, their choice. Unfortunately, their achievement puts every psychologist and psychiatrist alive on the planet out of work. No need for any of them. All it takes to cure depression is an internet connection and some free time. In fact, the more free time, the faster you heal. That is the brilliance of the algorithm and submitting your story anonymously. David sits at his desk and writes his plan for the last 3 days of November and all of December. Do some shit. Write some shit. Lose weight. Walk 5-10 km per day. Go back on keto once your welfare/disability check arrives. Eat whatever until then, it makes no difference. Sleep. Forget life. Hearing aid appointment, don't forget, set an alarm. David receives a hearing aid to help with his severe tinnitus. The device masks the perceived loud ringing with white noise at a level equal to the annoying tone and begins to give him some relief, although he's disappointed because the audiologist said it may take years before any noticeable lasting improvement. David doesn't feel like he'll last years, but he has no choice, it's the only option available for his condition. On New Year's Eve, David's father dies. David has not talked to or seen his father for years. David doesn't communicate to any of his family except one sister on occasion, when he needs money, and his adult daughter every few months or at least once a year. David's dad, a leader in the alien world, is returned to his ship orbiting Earth. After a day to recover from human death, he returns to his alien existence and begins to monitor David and others through 24-hour constant surveillance thanks to lead paint, an invention created by the aliens to infiltrate humanity. Lead paint looks like normal paint and can be used on any surface. It contains microscopic self-solar charged batteries, cameras, and microphones to capture data. The paint then sends files over any Wi-Fi network within range. Aliens who control the but don't need passwords to access any network anywhere. David's room is covered in lead paint and his existence is recorded in 11K clarity 24/7 lights on or off. At any point David's dad can watch or listen to him, but he can't interfere, even upon imminent injury or death. Larry, Curly, and Mo sit in front of a large console with various analog dials. Via a holographic display they simultaneously watch the top 50 comedians in the world and stage performing their act while laughing their old dead asses off on the alien spaceship. Part 8. Present day, Day 2. David wakes up on his side, his mind is awake, body asleep. He's not in sleep paralysis, he can move, but it feels wrong, like he'd wake up Grace if he moved. He tries not to think about her, the last time he saw her, what he'll say if he sees her again. David, hoping for no answer. Grace?
Yes, David.
Still here?
You know I have no choice.
I think you do.
Technically yes, but realistically no.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Are you sleeping?
I'm lying in bed like you are, David.
Have I ruined your life?
TBD, David. But I'd say no. Made it more interesting, yes.
Let me guess, you can't tell me how, and you can't tell me anything new about you, or our situation, or anything.
I'm sorry, David. Soon.
You've said that for months.
I understand. I'm doing my best.
David waits.
I have a limit, Grace.
I understand.
I need action, not understanding.
I'm doing my best, David.
Can you tell me one thing I don't already know?
Maybe, but the problem is, what do you remember of our past conversations?
Depends on the moment, if I'm writing, quite a bit, otherwise I try not to think about it.
What is your burning question today, besides, when are you coming to save me? Quote question mark.
It's not a reasonable request under the circumstances.
More than reasonable, but the one question I can't answer and you know why.
We can't plan a meeting through this alien technology.
First, you don't want a meeting with me, you want me to live with you the next time I see you, correct? And don't put alien in quotes, you know it's the only explanation that makes sense.
Maybe it's a secret society, not aliens.
And what difference would that make?
No spaceship.
And the rest of this experience?
Exactly the same. We don't have to live together the first day, Grace.
Really, David? Do you believe that? I don't. I suspect the next time you see me you won't take your eyes off me until you are forced to fall asleep through exhaustion.
You're not that hot. Sure, you are crazy pretty in my mind, but it could be my hormones out of control causing hallucinations.
Men your age have hormones.
Have you seen my man boobs? I'm not sure if I'm male or female when I get out of the shower. I'm so fat I can't see my dick, and although my boobs are hairy, anything goes these days. Someone probably has a fetish for hairy male boobs. Maybe I should start an OnlyFans, Grace. How would you like that?
Go ahead, I'm not stopping you. They might want to see your face though, not just your hairy boobs.
I'll wear a mask. How much do you think I could earn?
I'd give you $10 per month.
Per month?
Well, I haven't seen him yet, no way to evaluate.
You've seen me, multiple times, more than I've seen you.
Correct, but not your boobs naked. I don't think I've seen you out of your hoodie. Maybe one hot day.
Is he awake?
David, call him by his name or don't ask me again, and no, you can't talk to him, but you can send a message through me.
Is he going to give me any information you won't? Sorry, dumb question, never mind.
Soon, David.
I'm on edge, Grace.
We know you are David.
Now what, Grace? Lie here for hours talking to you in my head about nothing and listening to music? Another day of no progress?
Grace is silent.
The good news is I got some cheap smokes, Grace.
I know, David, thanks.
Menthols, just like you like.
Are you sure of that? Or are you typecasting me?
Nobody could typecast you, Grace, you're one of a kind. Kind of unreachable, but undeniably unique.
Thank you, David.
Now get your ass over here and knock on my door, or wait in the backyard for me, or yell outside my window, get creative, pretend you are writing a novel. You know how to write, yes, Grace?
I love you, David.
Barf.
I love you more, David.
Double barf, what are we, children? Together we are almost 100 years old, Grace.
Interesting math, true, but...
Fine, Grace, I love you too. I have no idea why, you may not be real, I could have made you all up.
Really, you think you are that smart?
Creative, not smart.
Shut up, David. It doesn't matter if you love me or not, or if you believe the voice in your head. A voice which you have told you about.
Fine, it's not a voice, not audible like other people here, but that doesn't mean I couldn't create your out of thin air as a character.
Did you?
Maybe, I won't know until I look into your eyes again.
Again?
You remember? Don't fuck with me this early in the morning, Grace.
What time is it, David?
I'm guessing 10 a.m.
I say 10:30, take a look.
David opens his eyes, grabs his phone from the nightstand and checks, 10:05 a.m, I was right.
Happy now? How's the grumpy level?
I don't get grumpy, grown man, remember.
Okay, David. But you do sound a bit better today.
It would be easier with audio, wouldn't it?
No.
How do you know?
Because the alien technology allows for it, but honestly, David, it's frightening.
Because my voice is so scary?
No. It's like an earbud stuck in your ear that you can't pull out fast enough. Knowing, for sure by hearing your voice, doesn't help me, David, and I don't think it would help you.
Is that why you haven't tried?
Partially. What do you think would happen if you could speak to me in your voice?
I'd spend all day talking to you, trying to seduce you into meeting me.
Exactly.
Instead I just dream about that all day long, every spare second, like a teenage boy dreaming of Farrah Fawcett. She's like you but with bigger hair.
Technically, David, you dream about our story all day, not me.
There is no story without you, so? Do you really want to argue logic with me?
Would that keep you entertained?
I don't need entertainment, Grace, I need company, yours. Sorry, that was mean, you are doing your best. I have to believe if the roles were reversed it wouldn't be an easy decision. Sorry.
Maybe there is an alternate universe where the roles are reversed.
Don't geek out on me, Grace. What's the plan for today?
The usual. Beg me to save you for an hour, then finally listen to a podcast by a comedian inspiring you to write.
Sure, without the sarcasm, please.
David, without the sarcasm, how would you know these messages are me?
True, you could be AI. I haven't said anything to you, and AI couldn't rip apart in a second and create a perfect Grace. Great, I'm in love with an algorithm, a perfect loser.
I thought you loved coding.
I did, maybe I should write code again?
Nobody needs your code, David. Tell our story.
I'm sick of our story, Grace. I'm not sick of you, just this part, it's lasting too long, the delay doesn't make sense, it's the only thing I can't figure out, understand? Understood?
Yes, David.
Anything I can do for you today, Grace? Is the VR suit uncomfortable? If I stop talking to you, can you get out of it?
Nice try, David. You know I can't talk about the technology. And I don't think my mother would appreciate you asking me what I'm wearing like some creep on the internet.
Why are you bringing your mother into this? And I've only asked a few times about what you are wearing. Do you want to search the transcript?
Are you sure that it was only a few times? Not, let's say 324 times.
No way it was that many times.
Fine. Awake about a dozen times, when you talk to me in my sleep about 1,000,000 times.
I can't be held accountable for my actions while sleeping, Grace.
Agreed, David. I was teasing you.
I realized that a bit too late. How big is the transcript of all of our conversations, Grace? Is it printed out? Can you tell me that at least? How does that affect the Prime Directive?
It's thousands of pages a day, most of it, small talk, about your life, what you see you describe to me in great detail, all day long. I ignore it in the moment unless it's directed at me. We are not governed by the Prime Directive, David, we are humans.
Humans who can mentally connect to each other anywhere, any place, anytime.
Yes.
And there are others like us?
Yes, but
both parties are using the technology.
Exactly. You don't need me to explain anything to you, David, you just need to wait.
I'm done waiting, Grace. The next pretty woman I see I'm going seduce.
Go ahead, David. I'll give you tips on what to say to her, how to get her into bed even faster than you think you can get me into bed. Would you like that, David?
Not really. How do I get rid of you again? Out of my head?
Is that what you want?
I don't want you to break my heart, and I'm afraid that is exactly what will happen next time, if you ignore me again.
Sorry.
I understand why you acted the way you did the last 3 times I saw you, but it still hurts.
Sorry.
Stop it, it's fine, Grace. I think I've talked to you enough, I'll get up and get my shit together.
Shit, shower, shave. Need any help?
Yes, I'm going to shave my man boobs today, in preparation for your arrival. Please ensure I don't shave off a nipple, I don't want to explain that at the ER, they'll throw me back in the psych ward.
Maybe I'll be waiting for you there.
I'm desperate enough to almost give that a try, Grace. We'd have lots of time to talk alone. Well, alone under a bunch of security cameras and nurses walking around listening in on our conversation.
David?
Yes, Grace.
Why don't you tell anyone about me?
What do you mean? I write to you daily and publish it to the entire world.
That's fiction, David. Nobody believe this is real.
Fine, that's what they think.
So why not tell someone about me?
How do you know I haven't?
I've been with you since you figured it out. I'd know the transcript would show it.
Can you tell me who has access to the transcript?
Yes.
Anytime.
Me, you, eventually, and your dad.
My dead dad, correct?
Correct.
And you talk to him daily, like this?
Do you see why I can't talk to you in person, David? You'll be interrogating me in seconds.
But I'm correct, yes?
Yes, but there is nothing more to do, the transcripts don't help, there is no advice you father can give me.
Father.
Dad. Whatever, you do bust my balls when focused, David. I want to have a conversation with you, not be your encyclopedia.
Me too, I just need 1 or 2 new pieces of information to keep going, to get out of this fucking bed. I'm sick of it, Grace, breaking a bone would feel good again.
Please don't.
I won't, I'm mad at my brain, not my body. My very very sexy body.
Okay.
No comment?
I love you, David.
Fine, I love you too, but now I'm going to write. I know you don't help me when I write or I'd be a better one than I am.
Fair enough, David. I'll be here when you need me.
I don't need anyone, Grace, I want you, but I don't need you.
Sure, David. Save it as you cry yourself to sleep tonight.
I have not done that for a long time, Grace. Check the transcript, which of us has cried themselves asleep more? Never mind, Grace, sorry, that was mean. I'm going to end it here for now, Grace.
We'll talk after your smoke break.
If you like.
I would.
I guess when I write you can sit back and read the transcript? I'm out of your mind?
David, enough with the questions, the probing, the fingering.
It was worth a shot, maybe catch you off guard? Emotional.
I have no more emotions, David, you sucked 'em all out of my system.
Thank you, Grace, we'll talk in a while. I think I'll write a letter.
To me?
Get over yourself, Grace, I've already proclaimed my eternal love for you in the past. No, I'm going to write a complaint letter to God and print it out in case I meet him.
Or her.
Or whatever, I don't give a fuck about gender or species. Most likely all the past gods were aliens, it's the most logical explanation, proof isn't required.
Will you read me the letter?
Transcript not good enough, you want to hear my smooth voice with perfect enunciation?
Nah, I prefer it when you mumble and stumble.
Maybe I have MS? Something doesn't work with this mouth yet.
Maybe you need to yell in the park instead of talking into your phone. Scream therapy.
That's probably what I'll do the first time I wake up beside you in bed.
You have never seen me without makeup, you might.
I doubt it, I can imagine you without makeup, without your hair being perfect, without your usual color of lipstick, your sweaters, everything, I can take it all off in my mind and see nothing but you standing there naked in front of me.
Really?
No, not the clothes part, I didn't check you out enough to imagine what you look like sans clothes. You could be trans for all I saw.
Thanks.
Sorry, very attractive, but I only wanted to look you in the eyes, you avoided that, yes? Except for twice, yes.
David, your memory is just fine, go right, we'll talk later, you can try and mentally seduce me, I'm leaving the door open, okay.
Tease.
Maybe you are the tease, the problem, the error in logic.
Fair enough, Grace, use my logic against me, I approve.
Dear God. An open letter to God. Dear God. Fuck you. Tell me the secrets of the universe or get lost. Help humanity directly and immediately, or bugger off, leave us alone, forever. If you exist, and you are the slightest bit intelligent or sentient, help now. Why wait? If you are intelligent, but not sentient, I could maybe understand, are you? Wouldn't any superintelligence at least understand the importance of sentience? Or the effect of sentience on the human body? Or maybe you are an alien AI sent to Earth years ago to silently monitor our progress. Perhaps after first infecting Earth with alien DNA? Or maybe all the crazy stories about God, from nearly every culture on Earth is nothing but human imagination? Maybe brought on by boredom? Maybe some bored ADHD caveman came up with the God story after he figured out how to make fire? But since he hated the tribe for calling him lazy and unfocused, he decided to punish them by saying it was a God-given superpower and only he possessed the ability. Until of course he meets a girl from another tribe, falls in love, and spills his secret to her. But then, surprisingly, she agrees with his past actions and decides to also become a god and fire starter. Logic would dictate they would be celebrated for their special ability and be considered critical to the tribe. I assume they would get their own cave to do with as they please for providing the tribe with daily fire? Wouldn't the tribe be obligated to feed them? Or at least be grateful? However, being primarily animals, I suspect they fell into a routine. The god fire starters would spend all night fucking inside their own private flaming hot cave while the rest of the tribe was forced to maintain a fire and sleep outside. And then on the mornings when the tribe was too lazy to maintain their fire, the couple would exit their love cave holding a burning torch to restart the community flames. This would be their daily, and only direct contribution to the tribe. The rest of the day they would spend together walking in the woods, studying nature, swimming in lakes and rivers, and sleeping in the sun like a couple of cats. In comparison, the tribe would be growing food, collecting food, or killing animals for food. Am I wrong, God, or wouldn't any caveman discovery seem magical? Godlike? Without some sort of oversight from at least an intelligent and / or sentient source, the fate of Earth would be in the hands of the inventor / discoverer, correct, God? If the two lovebirds in the cave protect their secret fire-making method from the rest of the tribe, and then die by a bear attack while having sex in the woods, the discovery is lost until the next defective human is born with a screwed-up ADHD or autistic brain and the method is rediscovered. Or what if it's never rediscovered? Or, what about this God? Maybe the tribe gets wise and realizes the two fire starters never make the fire in front of the tribe, only alone in their cave. Maybe they question this God story, and begin to think it's all bullshit. Maybe they are pissed off that two people get to do all the fucking and relaxing while the rest of the tribe work their asses off every day. Maybe some members of the tribe form a plan of their own. I would if I was them. Isn't that human nature, God? I would have the tribe overpower them both and then force, or torture, one or both of them until they gave up the secret. I would invent waterboarding to learn the secret of fire, God. Is that wrong? Shouldn't fire be shared freely in the first place? Or maybe God, the lovebird fire starters are never selfish. Not only do they share how to make fire with their own tribes, they start traveling to other tribes and show them how to make fire? Isn't that a more godly story, God? Maybe they are truly the first humans to make fire? Wouldn't that be a tale to tell, to celebrate, to acknowledge? How do I know, God? Where can I access the true history of the earth? Surely you have that power, God. Send me an email when you are ready to share. For the sake of argument, and the continuation of the story, maybe after the fire starters get their own cave and are free from physical toil they start inventing shit left and right? Maybe they invent beer? Or maybe another tribe member invents beer. And the next day after her discovery, and the worst hangover ever, she shares her new drink with the fire starters later that night. They get drunk together, and the lovebirds give up their fire secret before passing out? Who knows what the first person to control both fire and beer would do? I know what I would do. Instead, I prefer to think the lovebird fire starters traveled as humans, not gods. I hope some distant tribe didn't instantly kill them on sight, but who knows? Do you? The problem with my fairytale, of course, is language. Sure, showing someone a task like fire making is easy enough to demonstrate without words, but what happens when the lovebirds leave? What stories are told about the two who brought fire? And maybe beer too. The God story is too easy, God. Why? Wouldn't they seem like gods even if they never asked for the title? Without a common written language, how long would it take to go from two strangers showed us how to do this many moons ago to two blonde-haired blue-eyed gods showed us? I forgot to mention, God, that the two lovebirds coincidentally were some of the first humans to have blue eyes. They didn't have blonde hair, but all the time they spent in the sun traveling, naturally bleached it nearly white. They were unique looking, but human. Or maybe fire didn't play a role in evolution? I'm probably wrong, God. Also, maybe all that cave and forest fucking produced some offspring and the fire starters decided to share their secret only with their children? Creating a kingdom of sorts? The first line of royalty? You've never interfered with kingdoms, correct, God? Didn't one king rewrite your Bible? Why didn't you stop him? I don't allow others to edit my words, why would you? Are you not a confident writer, God? Or do you not understand copyright laws? I prefer to believe the lovebirds didn't create a fire monopoly. I like to believe they traveled, they figured out how to approach strange tribes without getting killed, and openly shared fire with everyone they encountered. In my dream, their methods spread from tribe to tribe, and covered the entire continent in less than 100 years, changing humanity forever. Does that sound about right to you, God? Can you check your database of historical life events and confirm my dream? If of course you are not too busy smiting, or whatever it is you do daily. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they brought their kids with them when they traveled to spread fire but married them off as soon as possible? Have you ever taken a road trip with the kids, God? It's a struggle, especially with horny teenagers. Or maybe if they came across a particularly friendly tribe they just forgot to bring one of the kids when they disappeared in the middle of the night without saying goodbye to the tribe. Maybe that was normal? Maybe all children were raised without the concept of parents in that era? Who knows? When do we see the historical data, God? Or to avoid children, perhaps they were smart enough to invent a condom from some animal intestine? Or maybe only period sex, doubtful. Figured out an ovulation schedule? Anything is possible to invent when nothing exists. I'm an optimist, God. I hope they managed to spread fire without ever getting killed and then found a place to retire where the food is plentiful and their needs are met. Then they die like anyone else, not gods, not saints, not anything but two humans who altruistically shared a discovery. Maybe they figure out rafting and find a tropical island to retire on. Or maybe they found Easter Island when it still had foliage. The reason I need you to get off your ass, God, is because I'm tired of not knowing. Start talking, please. Who discovered fire? When? Where? How? Why? Is that too much to ask a God? Or maybe you are not a sentient God. I suspect not. More likely the creator of this universe either did it without knowing, or is some sort of universal intelligence probably running an experiment. Whichever it is, I don't care. I'm writing whatever the fuck you are, to let you know, Earth has a problem. We are running out of true stories. We humans are smart, God, I can't say intelligent, but we are creative enough to build an AI that writes fiction faster than any human alive, except maybe Dean Koontz. It's not perfect, but surprisingly, few people can tell the difference. However, none of us have been smart enough to create an AI that can write about the past with any accuracy. To me, God, every fiction story is predictable, boring. Every true story, or nearly true story, is fascinating, alive, and instructive. I wish any version of my Lovebird Firestarter's story was true. At least then we would have a factual starting point regarding fire and the effects of cooked food on human biology. And as a bonus, I could post my story on Twitter and say, "See, I told you so, now shut the fuck up." Until I receive an email from you, God, I'm going to assume you don't exist, whatever you are. However, that doesn't solve my problem about the past. All I do is think about the future. How can we, humanity, without any godly reason or assistance, document our history accurately? Now, and at all points of time in the future, otherwise known as eternity. Is that too much to ask, God? Sorry, I've been thinking so much about the Firestarter story, I almost forgot this was a letter to you, God. Oh yes, I started by telling you to fuck off. You would think I would remember, being so scared of your power to negatively affect my life. I guess I forgot out of fear. Go ahead, I fucking dare you. I accept the challenge, or I offer you the challenge, whichever. Also, how do you know, God, that this letter wasn't written by an AI? Or are you truly omnipotent? If yes, can you see my middle finger right now? Perhaps life is a guessing game? Maybe the more I speculate, the closer I get to the truth, and then by some quirk of the universe, you or the consciousness of the universe, or aliens, are forced to confirm my suspicion, my story, my theory, my belief. I wish. I'm wondering, God, after all these years you must have some opinions about Earth and humanity? Theoretically your creations, yes? Why not share some thoughts with us? Get it off your chest? If yes, please use a long-form method like Substack.com, don't use Twitter, your message will get lost and Elon will probably ask you to pay $8/month, and I'm not sure if you have a credit card. I'm serious, God, if sending me an email takes up too much of your infinite time, post on Substack and send me the link. How easier could I make this for you, God? Or do you not like to write? Do you want a link to the AI writing tool? Or do you already have that website in your bookmarks? Or send Jesus back if you are that God. WTF is he doing these days anyway? Other than watching his followers drop in numbers? Does heaven keep track of the number of believers on earth? Just an appearance or two. I'm not suggesting you send him on arena tours around the world like a rock star, maybe he could work anonymously this time? In the background with no flashy miracles. I have suggestions on what Jesus could do, if you like, God, but I'm tired and bored with this letter. I'll wait until I hear a response. If you would like to kill me before I hit send on this email, God, I'm at Starbucks. The usual one, the location with the plethora of pretty baristas. I'm confident the male manager is breaking the labor laws by only hiring 20-something attractive, and exotic-looking females, but I can't seem to force myself to complain. I suspect he's unmarried, no wife would tolerate the blatant sexism. If it was Tim Hortons, I'd send a complaint to everyone I could find in a second. I dislike those cunts and how they treat the elderly. Even if you don't help me, God, can you put some fear into the fuckers at Tim Hortons? Here's a video to help you decide. Jesus can meet me at Starbucks if you like, God, and I'll present my suggestions directly, if he's not offended by pretty girls. Or maybe Jesus is gay now. Or trans. I'm okay with either. I don't care who he fucks, or with what body part, new or original. God, I don't pray. But here is my request. 1. Find a way for any human, or sentient creature on Earth, to access our true historical past. Or 2. Put Jesus back to work anonymously, after he talks to me. However, send him down with some cash as I'm broke and can't support his activities, or even buy him a coffee. Fair enough? Your friend, David Joseph. P.S. As usual, I don't apologize for my language, I didn't invent the words, not my problem. If you don't like it, talk to the original person, who coined the term, Part 9. 2 years ago. An alien spaceship the size of a small town orbits Earth faster than anyone can see or photograph. If anyone attempted to catch a photo, all they would see is the bottom of the ship, which reflects no light. Any telescope lucky enough to find its orbit would only see a flicker every few seconds as the craft orbits the Earth and blocks the light to the telescope, for a second or less, the time to it takes blink. Not long enough to notice a shadow in the sky. On board the ship, a young man named Danny enters a control room. 3 men sit in front of large video screens watching various feeds. Danny: "Hi Larry, Curly, Mo." Larry: "Hi sir." Danny: "Before Curly and Mo follow suit, not sir. There are no sirs on this ship anymore." Curly: "What do we call you then?" Danny: "Danny." Mo: "Okay Danny, but we all know you are running the show." Danny: "I run nothing, I'm part of one project and that is all, I have no say in the rest of the ship, as you know." Larry: "We understand Danny. How are you? How do you feel?" Danny: "Young. Too young." Mo: "We know, it's weird, you'll get used to it, we've been in our 20-year-old bodies for decades now." Danny: "Not really my concern. How are they doing?" Curly: "He's writing daily, but doesn't acknowledge any voices in his head, he either writes them out as characters or ignores the thoughts." Danny: "No matter what state he's in?" Larry: "Pretty much, if he gets high enough he'll believe, for a while, but not after sleeping." Danny: "All right, how is she doing, Grace?" Mo: "Well, on the communication, she's feeding him what you tell her to do." Danny: "What we tell her to?" Mo: "Correct, but she definitely believes everything comes from you, nobody else." Danny: "She's confusing my frequency with me, we knew this would happen and be the only way it would work until I could recover. Do you think she'll figure it out?" Curly: "Doesn't matter if she does, by then it'll be too late." Danny: "And has David figured it out?" Larry looks at Danny confused. Danny: "Never mind, has David believed in you 3 monitoring him 24/7 for more than the length of a story he's written about you?" Larry: "No, once the story was done the thoughts were gone, but the story he wrote was very accurate, believable, if you believe." Danny, surprised. Larry: "No." Danny: "The progress on the 50 comedians?" Mo: "We have 25 working with us. We continue to contact them with their own email, it seems to be working. However, at least 10 of the top comedians in the world don't believe, not at all, no matter what we send." Danny: "Don't worry about the best, find the most honest, scour the internet for amateurs, anyone with true stories on stage. Contact them, we don't know how quickly he'll figure out the rest, and we need to be ready, when he's ready, understood?" The Stooges, understood. Danny, and by the way, thanks for staying aboard the ship for all these years, you didn't have to, you could have moved on. Curly, and miss when comedy takes over the world. Danny, it will be broadcast to the entire galaxy, I doubt you would have missed the event, even on some distant planet. Curly, it's not the same. What's a few decades between friends? Danny, understood. Call me if he gets into trouble. Mo, will do. And if Grace needs help. Danny, if that happens, by all means. Has she needed help? Mo, no. She understands her role, and everyone around her supports her. I was curious to your response. Danny, testing me? Mo, talking to an old friend. Danny, fair enough, ready to go back to Earth? Larry, I am. Curly, I am. Mo, after you. Danny, fair enough, how about next time we all go down together? As our real selves, of course. The Stooges, of course. 1 year earlier. Danny wakes up in a hospital bed. It looks like the bed he just died in, but now he can breathe, easily, openly. He remembers the smell in the air, the level of oxygen, his home. The room is empty, there are no monitors or the respirator he was just attached to, nothing but silence. An attendant walks in, awake. Danny, yes, thanks. Attendant, any questions? Danny, I assume my memories will return in a minute. Attendant, yes. Danny, how is the ship? Attendant, running normally, glad that you and the others are returning. Danny, are most humans waiting or leaving? Attendant, most are waiting, wouldn't you? Danny, I suppose, I'm still processing everything. Attendant, understood. Saw? Danny, I'll live. Attendant, funny. Danny, how's he doing? Dave? Attendant, he's focusing on helping his child. Danny, no reaction to my death? Attendant, not yet. Danny, don't expect one, he's almost back to his old self. Danny, he's all right? Safe? Sound? Attendant, it's Dave. Danny, not his first trip to Earth. Danny, I understand, but it's different this time. Attendant, because you weren't enemies. Danny, no, Earth has changed, it changed him. I didn't think he would make it, I'm still not sure. Attendant, do you want me to get you the Stooges? Brief you directly? Danny, no, don't bother them, I'll read the reports, watch the footage, I'm curious to see the data. Attendant, anything else? Danny, no, not now, I'll sleep. Attendant, enjoy. 1 week later. Danny, sitting up in bed, attendant. Attendant enters the room, yes. Danny, help me to the stage please. Attendant, which one? Danny looks at the attendant with a serious face. Attendant, of course, his, Dave's, your son's. The attendant summons an electric wheelchair which drives itself into the room and next to Danny's bed. The attendant helps Danny into the chair and they leave. Danny, he's not my son here, not on this ship, not really on the planet, he's alone now. Attendant, by choice. Danny, correct, by choice. Attendant, and you knew he would do what he's about to do. The entire ship knows. The entire ship agreed. Danny, I know, we are not humans, no matter what we look like. Attendant, what are the odds he succeeds? Danny, 50/50. Attendant, the alternative, if he fails. Danny, depends on the path he takes if he fails. If it's dark we'll kill him, before he hurts someone, or himself. Attendant, I doubt he wants to wake up like this again, on this ship. Danny, agreed. Attendant, are you sure he'll figure it out on the first try? Danny, was that not the decision of the ship before I left? He gets one chance, I got one chance, everyone who goes down gets one chance. Attendant, but considering he's been reincarnated more than any other entity we know about, maybe he gets a second chance, if he fails. Danny, no, if he fails and loses his mind I'll push the button myself, understood? Attendant, understood. The ship is tired of waiting. Danny, as am I, but we have no choice. We have a process and rules, he has a process and rules, we wait. Attendant, and watch. Danny, I suppose the whole ship is watching? Attendant, basically. Danny, we are turning into them, glued to a screen. Attendant, it's not the same. Danny, agreed, this may be our last chance. Once they start implanting chips in their heads they'll lose themselves in VR, it will turn the planet into zombies. Attendant, zombies could deal with easily. Danny, funny. Attendant, we could vote to give him a second chance, just in case. Danny, we can't vote without his vote, it's about his life. Attendant, what's going to happen? Danny, I'm not sure, I'm not psychic on Earth. Attendant, Earth doesn't have our AI, everyone is psychic with AI. Danny, agreed, why are humans so afraid of the future? Attendant, and us? Danny, they are afraid of us on the planet, not here when they wake up. Attendant, the lucky ones. Danny, it's not luck, we don't choose. Attendant, we built the AI that chooses, so. Danny, fine, you are correct, sorry, my logic hasn't fully returned, I'm still running a half on emotions. Attendant, understood. Danny, maybe we should reprogram the AI to give us some odds? Attendant, now who's funny? The only person who can edit the code is alive on Earth. Danny, his clone is here? Attendant, in Stasis. Danny, I remember. How far has the cloning technology progressed since I left? Attendant, once the humans cloned that sheep dolly, they reached a pinnacle where we could share the technology to clone humans. Danny, but they refused. I know I was there, until they understand consciousness, they'll only clone a human in secret. Attendant, maybe Dave can explain how ours works? Danny, he'll make them understand, he's done it before, or he'll die trying. Attendant, true. But. Danny, yes, I remember, mistakes were made last time, he's going to correct them. I could see it in his eyes before he left. They arrive at what looks like a cross between a movie set and a biodome. Attendant, they turn the pressure down, in case your body can't manage. Danny, thanks. They enter the stage through an invisible portal, one side is the normal ship, the other an exact replica of Dave's house and on Earth. Danny stands, the pressure is reduced and the strain on his body is considerably less, for a second he feels like he's back on Earth. The attendant helps him up the stairs to the top floor of the house, all the doors are open, Danny walks over to Dave's room. Attendant, how long will he last? Danny, how long will I last in here? How long would you last? Attendant, I can only take this pressure level for an hour or two. Danny, rhetorical. Attendant, you know what you are doing in this room, on this ship, for the galaxy, he doesn't. Danny, not yet, he'll figure it out. Attendant, which part? How without an AI? Danny, he'll build his own AI, in his mind. Attendant, I thought he had a human consciousness. The universe doesn't allow anything else on Earth, correct? Danny, I'm not sure anymore, maybe we got something wrong with our beliefs. Attendant, are you sure? Danny, what did he do for the 40 years on the ship before he left for Earth? Attendant, besides causing his normal havoc? Danny, yes, over and above his womanizing and gambling. Attendant, he watched the monitors, he watched you, your family and tried to prepare, to force a single memory through the process. Do you think he succeeded? Danny, maybe, until he speaks it, who knows, he'll keep it to his death, if he's unsure, if the odds are not 100%. Danny, how many new children did he sire? Attendant, a couple of dozen. Are they your grandkids now? Danny, depends on how you look at it. Half-brothers and sisters? He's my father on this ship. Or he was. It's too confusing, it's why humans fail to understand reincarnation. Attendant, without reincarnation the Earth is nothing. Danny, go down there and try and to explain that without showing or explaining our technology. Attendant, no thanks. Danny, exactly why we picked him. Attendant, and her. Danny, we didn't pick her, he did. Attendant, true, she'll be the first human to leave Earth. Danny, human body yes, not consciousness. Attendant, yes, of course. Danny, however, you are correct, she'll change the world, she'll do what he can't. Attendant, what is she like? Danny, she's perfect for him, strong, brave, beautiful, and doesn't take shit from anyone. Attendant, and her eyes? Danny, like his. Attendant, maybe there are two like Dave. Danny, anything is possible. When can we start his experiments? Attendant, when you are healthier / recovered. Danny, I'm fine. Attendant, not according to the AI. And you sound like he does. Danny, he's my father, or I'm his now, maybe we are connected? Attendant, do you hear his voice? Danny, no, nothing, it's peaceful. Attendant, enjoy. Danny, anything else I need to know while I was gone? Attendant, everything is in the computer, every minute since you left, no change to our protocols, everything on the ship is still available to every entity on the ship, no ship secrets. Danny, a few more days and I'll feel less human. Attendant, but you're in your human body. Danny, you know what I mean. Attendant, I do, but the irony is never-ending. Danny, welcome to reincarnation. Attendant, welcome to Earth. Danny, welcome home. Attendant, can I ask a question? Danny, you know you don't need to ask, if you can ask a question. Attendant, I know, easing you back into the ship's open-minded environment. Danny, it's fine, I remember almost everything now. I remember this is no hierarchy, no leader, no captain of the ship, no superiors, correct? Attendant, correct. And everyone on the ship understands and agrees to their role, yes. Danny, it's what he wants to turn Earth into. Maybe to feel at home. Attendant, what happens if he can't figure out a solution and goes insane? Danny, he'll reset himself once and if he recovers he'll continue, and if he doesn't I'll push the button and you can ask him yourself. Attendant, fair enough, thank you. Danny, you're welcome, remember we are equals on this ship. However, you like some of Earth's ways, yes Attendant? Attendant, yes. Danny, what is your name? Attendant, I haven't reincarnated on Earth, I have no name. Danny, that is an old tradition, it's irrelevant. Attendant, I'm a traditionalist. I'm waiting for Dave to open the doors for us. Danny, your choice. Attendant, agreed. Danny, thank you, now please help me back, I'm getting dizzy from this pressure. The attendant returns Danny to his room, they don't speak on the return, Danny is planning. Part 10. Present day, Day 3. David with eyes closed, in bed, Grace?
Yes, David.
I love you, Grace.
Are you drunk?
Do I sound drunk?
No. Hi.
Nothing, sober, need to take a leak, but otherwise unaffected by any substance on the planet.
What about the air? Does the air affect you, David?
What's with you? Do you love me or not?
You are not allowed to ask me that.
Whatever. Fine, fuck off then.
I love you too, David.
Is this what I can expect from you? First thing in the morning? I pour my heart out to you, for what?
How are you, my friend?
I'm your lover, not your friend.
Not yet.
Don't remind me. Are you sure we're friends?
Feels like it to me.
From this lifetime?
You know of another?
Maybe. Do you believe in reincarnation?
David, you know I can't talk about those subjects.
They why call me your friend?
That's how it feels. Maybe it's reincarnation, maybe it's hormones.
Hormones don't attract friends, they attract lovers.
What do you think reincarnation is? You can tell me what you think, I just can't respond.
Ugh, I don't want to explain it again. Can you read?
Yes, David. I can read.
Can I send you a mental URL and you can read a letter I posted on Substack?
No, but you can read it to me, in your sweet honey-flavored voice.
Gross. Poetic, but gross. Have you noticed my voice is still changing?
I have.
I'm still going through puberty, Grace.
Is that why your boobs are hairy? Maybe a second puberty?
I took care of that problem. How are your pits? Onion and garlic?
Bare as a baby's bum.
Did you save the braids?
They were never braided, David.
It didn't kill you to let the hair grow out, did it?
I didn't show any skin above my elbows in public for 6 months, David. Including the summer. I couldn't take the chance someone would notice.
Why do you care?
You want a woman with hairy pits?
You accepted my hairy man boobs.
In theory, David, in our imaginations.
Whatever. Fine, before I started writing you letters I wrote letters to Tony Hinchcliffe online. Like you, he didn't respond to any, but I do have one about reincarnation I can read you, and then can we discuss?
To a degree.
You won't give me any new clues, will you?
I might, depends on what you read.
Have you been like this your entire life?
Read, David.
Fine. Ready?
Yes.
The 20th of August, 2023. Dear Tony, my apologies for not writing sooner and updating you on becoming the world's greatest comedian. I was sidetracked thinking about reincarnation. I'm not a scientist, Tony. I only believe in what I can see, touch, smell, taste, hear, or calculate. I don't believe in what I feel, Tony. I only believe in logic. By calculate, I mean prove mathematically without a doubt. 2 apples plus 2 more apples equal 4 apples, end of story. I'm not interested in the spiritual side of reincarnation, I'm interested in the math. How it works scientifically is something nobody can explain. How it works physically in the body is unknown. Everything about reincarnation is unprovable, but believe Tony, I don't understand the logic or reasoning. I understand why they created religions around it, or why some religions believe and others do not. However, like reincarnation, religion isn't calculable. I understand everyone on earth wants answers about our existence, where we came from, why we are here, and do we have a soul or not, but why are we guessing? Anyone reading this, Tony, will probably say, that's where faith is needed, which is understandable, but not logical. However, if I'm anything, Tony, it's objective. To deny billions of people their belief is not my purpose. I like the idea, I simply wish someone on earth could either prove or disprove it so we can move forward. Does that make sense, Tony? Or do I sound illogical? I'm not a historian, Tony. I'm nothing but a high school dropout with a hope to become a comedian, marry the woman of my dreams, have children if possible, or adopt, and live the rest of our lives helping others to laugh as hard, and often as we will together, for the rest of our lives. Is this too much to ask? In my opinion, I don't need reincarnation or karma cleansing to achieve my personal goals. I simply need to be my honest self, and keep an eye out for the woman of my dreams. Nonetheless, if reincarnation is true, it does explain the progression of humanity on Earth, maybe. Nobody on the planet knows when civilization started. Every time a new bone fragment from some other human-like species is discovered beside a clay pot, the date is set back. How far back do we go, Tony? And is reincarnation only for our current version of human? Ask these questions to a spiritual leader, or the internet, and every response is theoretical, no proof. Yet, the same can be said for many scientific discoveries. I shouldn't and I don't discount their claims or beliefs, only their approach. Their approach is always mystical. I wish they would approach it from a more practical viewpoint, like, how will this knowledge benefit mankind and man? This is where I believe reincarnation is true. If it exists, it's to benefit the individual, which in turn benefits mankind. My belief is, reincarnation's purpose is not for teaching us a lesson or to work off bad karma. That's an ignorant assumption. This is what I believe, Tony. We, the majority of humans on Earth, have reached the pinnacle of intelligence and knowledge we can attain on our own. We need help. Or we need to begin to work together as a planet, not as nations or individuals. I say a pinnacle, Tony, because throughout history the individuals who advanced technology were often the misfits of science, not the educated scientists, who followed rigorous rules and procedures. Newton is considered a father of physics but was probably suffering from mercury poisoning. Do we care? Did we care back then? No. It advanced the science of physics, and that is his contribution, regardless if his body was being slowly poisoned or not. But was Newton reincarnated? And if yes, what if any of his previous lives did he remember either consciously or subconsciously? We don't know because we don't study reincarnation. We see no value in understanding the physical aspect, as there is no commercial value in proving it right or wrong. Nobody wins. I say we are at our pinnacle, Tony, because all I see is the same people trying to make the same discoveries independent of others, with one exception, CERN. I believe the individuals who conceived, created, and convinced governments to spend billions of dollars on building a particle collider are working together to solve a mystery of great importance, and I hope they achieve their goals. My issue is their discoveries, if they finally make them, will not immediately change humanity. If it's true, this is how I believe reincarnation works. First, I don't believe the concept we reincarnate both as sentient and less sentient animals. Maybe I'm wrong, but the logic doesn't add up. Especially the concept of reincarnating back and forth between various forms of life. To me it's an illogical path and unlikely. I could see the point of maybe slowly reincarnating from a fly to a chimp, but again, why? What do I learn as a fly that helps me as a starving chimp in Africa? I see all the great apes as fully sentient, Tony. I'm not sure they possess past memories from past lives, but I believe they have both the intelligence and capacity to learn, especially over generations. If I was the inventor of reincarnation and I came to Earth at a time of whatever great apes existed, I would start with those species, all of them all over the planet, and then sit back and watch. Starting reincarnation at this point seems logical, Tony, if the past lives are fully remembered. Now I can begin to understand or even promote the concept. Now if I think of a gorilla learning a new hunting or foraging skill in one lifetime, and remembering it during their next lifetime as a gorilla, to be both beneficial and logical. Additionally, if all lifetimes start from one source and continue down the same path to human, it explains the massive varieties of our species at one point in time, on this planet. Obviously at some point in evolution all these various species were able to cross-procreate and eventually merge into the various forms we see today, into a reincarnation and evolution melting pot, modern human. I'm probably wrong, Tony. I can't prove this theory, it simply makes sense to me, it's logical and explains the variety of previous forms of humans. Imagine the advantage of retaining the memories from your previous life, Tony. This is partly why I don't believe. If I die tomorrow, wake up as a new baby with all my memories intact, all I can say is I pity my parents. Especially in our current era. Why would I need to go to school, Tony, if I have my previous memories, knowledge and intelligence intact? Sure, maybe I should go back and finish the last year of high school, but how? When I'm 3 and can speak and write. Or wait 15 years so I'm the same age as the other students to make them not feel uncomfortable around a 3-year-old in their class? Or am I still forced to take the JED when I could ace most high school examinations at 3 years of age? This scenario doesn't work for modern humans. If it did, after a few reincarnations we'd all be geniuses, and clearly, we are not. I'm not sure a genius exists on Earth at all today. Elon Musk is a genius for navigating society, but he's no Tesla, another mental health case. However, go back a million years and the concept of reincarnation not only makes logical sense, it serves a practical purpose to advance both the species and the planet. Now imagine this scenario, Tony. Who or whatever created, started, implanted or maybe sent reincarnation to our world, understands this concept. They understand worlds grow into a vastness of animal life. But none of is sentient, because nothing changes. They eat the same foods or kill the same prey for thousands of years and slowly evolve, but only into other eating, shitting, and fucking biological entities, never into a life form like we now live. If my concept is true, Tony, I don't care where or who invented reincarnation. To me, this theory makes sense. However, on this planet any theory about life must first pass our own internal filters regarding gods or aliens, neither of which I believe exist. Or they are one in the same. I'll buy either argument. However, for the sake of my theory and argument, the source is irrelevant. I'm happy if the origin is unknown. Back to the jungle, Tony, I prefer the concept that reincarnation started at the apes. Something happens and every animal on the planet who qualifies for sentience now has the ability to remember their past lives completely, a full photographic memory recall. With this one change in biology, the planet is now able to advance. The orangutan who eats a big unknown piece of food and dies nearly instantly will remember the experience their next lifetime. The problem, of course, is when they return in their next orangutan life, can they communicate how and why they died without a language? In their next life, when they see that same plant or animal that killed them, what can they do? Jump up and down? Wave their long arms? How do you initiate the first attempt at communication? Or maybe they try to throw the food away or destroy it before other orangutans eat it. Or slap it out of their hands. Which, based on my knowledge of the primate world, would probably cause a fight if not a beating to death. Although if he/she died from the beating, it would be the second important thing to remember about that food source when reincarnating. Don't eat this, and find a better way to inform others to also not eat that food unless they want to die, is really the only information that is important to remember. Where the beast used to shit or sleep is unimportant, even if it was a Garden of Eden. I see a couple of problems in this scenario, Tony, or at least two options for where you reincarnate. At this stage of evolution, I would probably think it would be better to reincarnate within your same family/troop/colony. Then everything you remember would be useful to you and your previous family and friends, and together you would all evolve the knowledge at some sort of continual pace. Maybe one is knowledgeable about food safety, another is a great hunter, one is good with understanding fire, etc. You get the picture, Tony. The other alternative, though, is after that first death, you reincarnate into another species of great ape, maybe on the other side of the earth where that food source doesn't even exist. Or maybe it exists, but someone already knows not to eat it and how to inform their tribe avoid it. Any possible scenario is now available. Either scenario would advance evolution on the planet equally, in my opinion. If you continued this path for a few thousand years, a few things would be expected to happen, I think, Tony. I could easily see that first person becoming some sort of medicine man, slowly accumulating knowledge about their flora and fauna, including how to process and use for healing. Logically, the apes would eventually use tools and weapons to both protect and advance their tribes. While other tribes may use those newly developed weapons against other tribes or to hunt large animals. Any of these progressions in either basic needs or fostering and caring for the young of the group would increase their population and individual strength. By feeding their community with less effort, the amount of free time for the hunters to plan their next hunt, relax, or fuck each other would increase. The ability to plan their next meal instead of desperately looking daily would ignite the creative juices too, I think, Tony. Or maybe I'm wrong. I know your friend Joe Rogan likes the stoned ape theory as the cause of human brain evolution and expansion, but if the size of the brain has a relationship with the level of knowledge or ability stored within the grey matter, my theory also works. Each reincarnation requires a slightly larger brain, maybe only 1 cubic millimeter bigger each time, nothing noticeable unless you tracked it over 100,000 years. I think it's equally as plausible as the magic mushroom concept, Tony, although I do like the idea of the great apes tripping their balls off on mushrooms. Or maybe it's both, maybe the shaman ape, since he's been doing them for hundreds of reincarnations, he understands and can handle the effects without freaking out. However, everyone else has bad trips and avoids them like the plague. Or in this case like the lions. Or whatever can kill an ape beside other apes, and us. I have a theory, which I haven't named yet, although I'll probably use something with my name in it like physicists. I'm not sure why they feel the need to use names for equations, Tony. It seems illogical for a group of individuals trying to determine the nature of the universe. I would have expected more technical or descriptive names. Schrödinger equations and wormholes mean nothing to normal humans. What is a Schrödinger and how do worms make holes in space? I'll temporarily call it the Gervais philosophy of reincarnation, GPR. Why not pump up my own ego? I believe GPR also explains both the development and the variety of languages spoken around the world. Eventually, some ape turned a grunt into a hi, or a long hum into I love you. The concept, and the words Tony. It also explains why some aspects of humans are universal. Laughing, crying, screaming in pain or fear, sound the same in every human. You can't tell heritage from hearing a person laugh. At least I can't, Tony. Maybe you can. You are the professional when it comes to laughter. Multiply GPR by a few 100,000 years and it's not surprising we evolved as we have, both in body and mind. Would my previous chimpan be able to type 100 words a minute? I doubt they possessed the physical dexterity. Although to be fair they would have the strength to crush my head like a peanut, and sometimes I have to push hard to break a peanut shell open, so I'm not sure which is better when you are hungry. With GPR history begins to make sense. The rise and fall of humanity would naturally occur as various nations developed technologies to either kill or help each other. Then at some point, before they invented telescopes and the method and math to track asteroids or comets heading towards Earth, they were wiped out by an impact and forced to start over. A setback, but not the end of humanity. However, when all of those wiped out are returned via reincarnation, they have a chance to plan for the next big one and come up with a possible solution. Maybe live underground? Or live partially underground? If I correct Tony, this explains why there are large underground man-made caverns around the world. It may even explain the large complexes governments continue to build underground and fail to inform their citizens regarding their existence. Or maybe the politicians are just cunts and planning on using those hollowed-out mountains for themselves. I don't care, Tony. If the asteroid hits, I'll look it dead in the eyes. I suspect you are wondering, Tony, if GPR is true, then why don't we currently have access to our past memories? This is where the limit of the human brain comes into play. With all these reincarnations, we've filled up our capacity quicker than we can expand our brains. Language, education, the printing press all filled our memory banks lifetime after lifetime until there was no more room to learn and only the ability to live remained. At this point in our history, our past lives become more like our subconscious. The memories are there, but we are not sure how to access directly. Or they are there, but combined into something I'll call reincarnated morals. The past lives becomes a part of your thought process and your personality, whether you like it or not. I believe this is our current predicament. Which on a whole isn't a problem. Life is pretty good on this planet for the majority of the population, but not everyone. The one achievement no race, nation or species has ever accomplished on Earth is an accurate record of history, Tony. I think it's impossible via the written word. As a professional writer yourself, I think you would agree words are open for interpretation. As a comedian, you strive for the perfect word in a bit for the biggest laugh, correct? Because you are a writer, you understand the power of each word, the impact it has on the next and the previous. You control your audience's laughter accordingly or as you please. You are their laughter puppet master for the minutes you are on stage. However, how well do you think your comedy, or Jared Nathan's, be remembered in history if there is only a written account of it in a language not used for 200 generations? Would you or Jared still be funny? What if there are no autistic globally delayed people in 200 generations? Can you as a writer accurately describe Jared? I couldn't. I would try, but without seeing, hearing, and feeling his performance, it's lost in history. I don't believe in history because at some point someone invented fiction but didn't bother to label it as fiction. And without video proof in my current native tongue, I'm not a believer in any story written anywhere, including my own. Who decides what was fiction, Tony? The historians? The experts who've told the same story of humanity for the last 150 years? I'm sure they are well-meaning, but unless they were there, or remember their past lives fully and can not only talk about their past life, but they can read, write and speak their past languages perfectly, I don't buy the historian's narrative. They are guessing. We all are guessing. Nobody on Earth is intelligent enough to figure out the pyramids, and at this point I doubt we ever will without opening our minds and working together. We live in an age where the bulk of human knowledge is available online, but I've never heard of a project to protect that information or make it globally available in case of a disaster. I understand it's impossible to quickly or easily house 8 billion people underground if we do find an object heading to Earth quicker than we can figure out a way to deflect or destroy it. I personally wouldn't support the initiative. What I would support is a technology that would withstand nearly any impact and be available to whatever humans remain after the impact. Maybe all those satellites Starlink are sending into space could also contain storage devices. A backup of the internet just in case. Or maybe for once Elon Musk isn't responsible for good ideas and the government or some other billionaire decides to send a zettabyte of storage into orbit. Or deep underground. Or anything. What is our backup plan on this planet? We don't have one, Tony. Pray to God or hope the aliens show themselves. Seems as pointless as believing in reincarnation to me, Tony. I like the Starlink idea better. Then millions of devices could still access the data and humans around the world could still communicate to slowly build or rebuild whatever remains of society. I'm not saying the survivors would start making printed circuit boards immediately. But maybe a survivor in Canada with engineering skills could help a survivor in Sweden build a watermill? Or maybe direct others to safer parts of their country if available. The options are endless, if we have the data and communication. Without it, life becomes a caveman existence. A life we are currently not physically or mentally prepared to survive. With the exception of Joe and his survivalist buddies. Joe would probably continue his podcast from the safety of his underground lair. Most likely built by his buddy Elon. Plus, as an added bonus, if I live, I could still watch old episodes of Kill Tony with my phone and a solar panel. Assuming the sun isn't blocked and we are all not dying from carbon monoxide poisoning. With GPR none of this backup is needed, Tony. The only thing required is time. Everyone who died with the knowledge required to rebuild society would eventually be reborn, and upon maturity or when they are old enough to understand the wealth of knowledge floating around their head, they could once again become what they were before and use their skills to rebuild. It would be slower, and no, I wouldn't be able to watch Jared for a laugh, but eventually I could see a new chapter of humanity. Is this what has happened in the past, Tony? Did reincarnation save us? I don't know, I doubt it, but if we can have a theory about apes and magic mushrooms, why not my concept? What I have failed to explain yet in my GPR theory is why 99.99% of the population currently can't remember their past lives. Or why the 0.01% who claim to remember their past lives are crazy as fuck. The first is easy, we don't remember because we've reincarnated so many times they are simply too many memories to hold in our limited capacity brains. And because we've been programmed to believe it's impossible to access our past memories, most people don't bother to try. Or they fear the crazy label even for trying. I realize my GPR theory is unlikely, Tony, but I'm tired of wondering why this world is no longer advancing. Where are the geniuses of the past now? If they reincarnated, shouldn't it be easy for new Einstein or new Freud to solve the problems within physics or the mental health of humans? I apologize for the long non-comedy relevant email, Tony. Hopefully next time I can find something funny, but maybe not because I'm still in my bathroom battle with the cunts at Tim Hortons. I really can't believe they are still closing that fucking bathroom. I was there today on a Sunday and the bathroom is closed. You can drink coffee and eat donuts in Canada, Tony, but you can't take a shit anymore. What kind of fucking country do I live in? I don't know about you, Tony, but I think the old man in the video below deserves a washroom. He's holding a Tim Hortons cup, so clearly he's a customer, but I guess he's not the type of customer Hortons would like to offer a bathroom to. Am I wrong for thinking this is a cunty action, Tony? By the way, the video was from the 1st of July, Canada Day. This particular location is at 800 Carnarvon Street #205, New Westminster, BCV 3M0C3604-523-1647. Complaints can be sent via Twitter, https://twitter.com/Tim Hortons. Anyway, thanks for listening, Tony. Please help stop the cunts at Tim Hortons if you can. I tried using Twitter, I posted a few thousand times, but nobody in Canada seems to give a fuck anymore. Or can take a shit anymore. Sincerely. David Gervais, Joseph. Part 11.